Hello. Let me get this actually working right. Hi. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Jay Owens, and I'm the author of a book called Customer Servitude, Poverty, Prejudice, and Power on the Front Lines of American Commerce. And I wrote this book because most of my working life, I worked in customer service. I've been a telemarketer, I've done bartending, I've run my own retail business, and for over a decade I worked in the convenience store industry, working my way up from overnight clerk to general manager. I'm also gay and an atheist, and most importantly, an activist. So 2017 wasn't super fun at my job. But the thing is that sometimes it takes a year like 2017 to bring things into really sharp focus. Everyone who's ever worked customer service knows that the job can suck sometimes. Customers can be awful. They can also be great, and the good ones outnumber the awful ones. But there are definitely awful ones. But that's the thing that trips us up from really acknowledging the deeper issues. Really rude, really entitled, even really racist and hateful customers, they get us upset. They ruin our days. Everyone who's ever worked customer service wants the power to say no to those customers, to stand up for themselves. And it's really easy for that to become the main issue in our minds. And it totally was for me. Most days in all my jobs were really good, and it's easier to feel great about the fact that overall really good days outnumber the really bad ones. Or, if you're in a job where you deal with bad customers all the time, then it's kind of all consuming. So when you look at other jobs, the fewer the number of days that you're forced to be nice to crappy people becomes like a plus. But that's not why I wrote this book. I know when I begin to describe it to people, I can kind of see in their eyes that their first thought is that it must be about how much it sucks to deal with crappy customers, or how customers should be nicer, which is true, and both of those things are true. But it goes so much deeper than that. So, you know how sometimes people who shoplift come in with other people. One goes to distract the staff, the clerk, and the other one actually steals stuff. And there's that distraction element. And the same thing goes on in customer service work. I'm not saying that's an intentional choice on the part of employers, but they're certainly willing to benefit from it. So the bad customers, the hateful ones, the ones who don't leave tips or complain about everything or use racial slurs or whatnot, they're the distraction. Sorry, I've got a cat. Companies don't send them, but they're certainly not doing a lot to get rid of them or do anything about the problem. In fact, they give in to their demands, so it's not like they want them gone because they've got money to spend. And meanwhile, the companies, they lobby. They fight wage raises, they fight against the right of employees to organize and to join unions, they resist efforts to enforce anti-harassment and anti-discrimination policies, and they take away opportunities for advancement. And they implement policies and systems which make discrimination look really reasonable and objective and fair when it's not. They exploit the people at the bottom of the organizational chart. And that's why I wrote the book, because it's not about how much customers suck, it's about how much the system enables customers to abuse employees and prevents employees from doing anything about it except to smile and play along and collect paychecks which barely cover living expenses. So what I would love from everyone watching this video now and everyone who watches this on their newsfeed later is to message me your questions and comments, because what I want this book to do is to start a conversation. Because here's the reality. Customer service is a huge part of the economy, and it's growing. Two of the fastest growing jobs in the whole economy are retail salesperson and cashier. And yet, customer service jobs are also where you're most likely to find the working poor. And those are people who are employed for more than half the year and still don't make enough to raise their household above the poverty line. But we don't talk about that. And if you don't talk about it, you don't change it. So let's start talking. If you have a question or a comment that is at all related to the topic of the exploitation and oppression of workers in customer service jobs, send it to the Facebook page. I'm going to go live once every couple of weeks, and I'd love to have questions and stuff to answer and talk about after I'm done talking about whatever topic I've chosen for the week. But in the meantime, let's cover the one big question I get when I talk about the book, and that's that, the problem is really complex, and there's all these converging forces that act on employees and to keep them financially disadvantaged and take away their ability to change the situation, but what's the solution? Or is this just a book about how bad the problem is? So first of all, no, it's not just about the problem. I didn't want to write a book that just posed a problem and then left it at that. I wanted to end the book with some kind of a strategy or direction or call to action. But I'll be honest, when I started writing, I had no idea where it would end up. So I just knew that the discussion was important, that I'd started stringing the pieces of the problem together in a way that I'd never had pointed out to me before. And I knew that the people around me who were experiencing the same kind of disenfranchisement just didn't see it. So I'm going to back up a little from the question here. So when I first conceived the idea for the book, I thought my target audience was going to be customers and the people who, are higher up in these companies, ones that make policy, particularly the ones that otherwise care about being good people and doing the right thing. Because I know that a lot of people participate in these systems and perpetuate these, policies and ideas without actually sort of being conscious of the harm that it does. They're not intentionally evil. I think that a lot of people will do the right thing when the reality is pointed out to them. They just don't go looking for reality on their own. Like people in departments at corporate offices aren't sitting around cackling like cartoon villains and figuring out how many minorities they can not hire. So I like to think that if you push through the issues that keep people blind to that reality and show them the truth, some people in those offices would make better decisions. So I wanted to write a book which led people to those truths. Not everybody, because those blinders are really important to people and they don't like to take them off, but some. So I started writing thinking that I was writing to customers and executives who wanted to do the right thing, who cared about being good people and good business people. But that just didn't realize, the impact of their actions. But the more I talked about it, and the more I realized that the reason no one has to look at that truth is because the people living it don't necessarily understand the extent of it and aren't making noise. It's that distraction thing. So yeah, the guy who talks about your pretty eyes every morning is awful, and you want to be able to tell him to not talk to you like that. But the bigger issue is that there's a whole machine behind you that keeps you from being able to do that without risking your employment. And that means keeping you, and it's keeping you from doing a lot more than that. So, but you don't think about it because weird skeezy guy is a distraction. So we complain about, weirdo eye man, and we don't complain about how we wouldn't have to put up with it and fear losing our jobs if we didn't work in an at-will employment state where you can literally be fired for any reason, or how we'd have ways to stand up to employers if we had union representation that wasn't reduced by right-to-work laws, or how management tends to get very little, if any, training on how to properly handle such situations, much less how to hire and fire and manage in a fair and non-discriminatory manner. So the solution to the problem really is to give that power to the employees. Currently, it doesn't exist. They don't have ways to negotiate higher wages. They don't have resources to contest employment issues. They don't have the ability to advocate for themselves without risking employment and therefore risking everything else. So if we raised wages and raised the minimum wage, then it would lessen the financial pressures that keep people dependent on those jobs. If you're less worried about whether you can pay rent or buy food, then you're less worried about what happens when you tell the creepy eyes man to leave you alone, or you're less worried about what happens if you report your racist supervisor to their supervisor. And you're more likely to be able to take advantage of training and education opportunities, to join unions, to do the things that enable workers to improve the situation. So that's a big part of it. And then there's all the other stuff, which gives power to employees or removes the constraints which currently prevent those employees from using the power that they technically have on paper. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. As far as where the book ends up. More details, read the book. So if you have more questions or comments, please message the page. Like I said, I'll come online and do a live video every couple of weeks. And thank you for watching. You can find Customer Servitude on all major online book retailers, or the link is there on our Facebook page as well. And feel free to share this video. Thank you.